Our reading today is from the poet Mary Oliver. The poet dreams of the mountain. Sometimes I grow weary of the days, with all their fits and starts. I want to climb some old gray mountain, slowly, taking the rest of my lifetime to do it, resting often, sleeping under the pines or above them, on the unclothed rocks. I want to see how many stars are still in the sky that we have smothered for years now, a century at least. I want to look back at everything, forgiving it all, and peaceful, knowing the last thing there is to know. How silent the trees, their poetry being of themselves only. I want to take slow steps and think appropriate thoughts. In 10,000 years, maybe, a piece of the mountain will fall.
Know where true joy is found, where true joy, where true joy, where true joy is found.
So last winter, about this time, I was in Georgia on a break from my parish ministry. Georgia is where my grandchildren live, so a natural place for me to go. When I decided to take a break after the Christmas holiday, I knew that I was exhausted, and I just needed to get away from a ministry that I loved, but which was also very draining. Like Mary Oliver, I needed to climb some old gray mountain, to take slow steps and think appropriate thoughts. That's what a minister's time away is for. And stepping away from work like that, taking time for myself, was also completely counterintuitive to my early training. Growing up, my family, like so many other families, as well as the culture around us, prized production, ambition, multitasking, even competition around how many hours we work or how little vacation we take. Rest is not something we ever really talked about. And that, my friends, I know now, is decidedly unhealthy. Not just for me, but for all of us. My dear colleague, minister in Gloucester, Reverend Janet Parsons, shared a reflection on rest with me. She said that what we all need in our lives is spaciousness, a time to find ourselves again. Spaciousness, a sense of having room in our daily lives, room to inhale, to fill our lungs with enough air, room to rest when we need to, room to explore what our spirits most need on a particular day, room in our hearts. Spaciousness to heal whatever needs healing. And in this world we live in, especially right now, it can be remarkably hard to find spaciousness, whether we're working for a living or not. As a matter of fact, many of my retired friends say they are as busy or even busier than when they were working. The goal of our culture seems to be busyness all the time, racing from one activity to the next, one idea to the next, one podcast or Netflix series to the next. It often feels as if we're scrambling to keep up, doesn't it? The thing is, spaciousness has to be actively pursued. We need to make room for it. Spaciousness waits for us to be invited to appear. It's a little bit shy. It will take a back seat. And so to make room, to seek space in our lives and souls, we have to become intentional about it, which feels a little paradoxical sometimes. Shouldn't spaciousness just emerge when we're relaxed and not striving for it? But that's how it is in the culture we live in. We have to make the space for the inner healing we all need. 2 years ago, I was in Portland, Oregon, attending the UU General Assembly. Some friends and I decided to take an afternoon off to play hooky and headed to the Japanese garden on the outskirts of the city. After air travel with crowded airports and planes stuffed to the gills with unmasked travelers, after packed days of programming, lectures, workshops, and worship services, we stepped away. It was a contradiction to all of our shared overworking patterns. And at the same time, we knew our spirits needed it. Actually, the very act of intentionally seeking a place of beauty was a kind of metaphor for pursuing spaciousness. After all, the garden wasn't going to come to us. In the Japanese garden, we entered into another world. Here we found a world of intention and peace, a place designed to encourage us to move slowly, to savor, to listen and look, to breathe. Following a purposefully constructed path, we discovered what one friend called the Zen garden of a million surprises. In this artfully designed place, we found the essence of peacefulness. The bustle of the city left far behind us. There were sounds of water trickling over stones, birdsong, breezes, the quiet murmur of voices. It was peaceful, but it was also so much more than that. And it was beautiful, but it was more than that too. It was a place of invitation, a place that welcomed us to slow down and allow each element to enter our consciousness. A place that subtly and silently offered us space, offered us stillness to bring any heaviness or hurts, confusion or grief, anything that we had been carrying, and set it down. As we walked, we noticed more and more how carefully even low ground covering plants had been selected to coordinate with the stones in the path. Plants with tiny leaves placed along sections of path paved with tiny river rocks. How the moss was weeded so that the texture was unmarred, uniform. How the moss could then capture light and shadow and draw the eye both straight down and also ahead to slopes and curves. We noticed areas of meticulously raked sand that captured the light and then drew our eyes toward the trees and shrubs planted around the edge. We didn't realize at the time that we were experiencing the hide and reveal design that master gardener Professor Tono of Kyoto had created decades ago. Garden elements and vistas were sometimes hidden from view and then exposed. At times, we were offered a bright, blank canvas of white sand to rest the senses, which then drew us forward to the texture created by leaves, branches, color, and shadows. We spotted a small shrub or two planted at the base of a larger one, trained almost to cover it. In that moment, we weren't sure whether each element was intentional, but clearly they were. The Japanese garden invited, it welcomed our participation. The more closely we looked, the more we entered into this experience. The Zen garden of a million surprises, wrote my friend, one you could only find if you bent and twisted and looked every which way, like the tiny azalea shrub planted within a larger shrub that could be glimpsed only if you bent down and peered closely. Spaciousness in this place didn't mean passively receiving beauty and peace. It asked us to actively join in, looking, bending, responding to the care and intention with which the garden was designed. The healing of stillness was there, on offer. It was up to us to bring whatever needed to be healed. One revelation in particular caused us to stop and simply stand still in surprise. Our guide told us that every stone in the waterways throughout the garden was placed in its exact position by the designer because he was seeking a particular sound. Professor Tono would turn his back on the waterfall, listening intently as the workers moved one large rock at a time until the sound of the falling water was exactly what he wanted. Even the sound of water on stone was intentional. There was so much peace in that garden. We felt receptive, fully alive, able to see and feel the effort and intention behind the design, creating the spaciousness we needed to tap down deeply into emotion, awe, and wonder, healing something deep within us that we hadn't even known needed healing. The memory of the Japanese garden brought into focus for me the need to create spaciousness, to heal deeply on a regular basis from my overbusy life. It helped me to understand the healing of stillness in a visceral way, deep within. As I remember how I felt in that space, I feel emotion welling up inside of me, the power of being present, fully present, in a space that was created not just to be beautiful, but created as a gift to help me and millions of others like me to locate that inner sense of spaciousness, of peace, of trust and faith in something bigger than ourselves that we crave and need so badly, whether we know it or not. Yes, the garden was beautiful, but it represented so much more than superficial beauty. It was an offering, an invitation to connect, to feel, to open the eyes of our hearts, an invitation to healing in stillness. Now, nothing is perfect. Near the end of our visit, our peace was broken by the sound of a chainsaw. Gardeners had been actively working throughout the garden, carefully nipping a leaf here or pruning a small branch there, but clearly there was a larger project that required the occasional hammering of a power tool. And such is life. We can find moments of spaciousness, of stillness, chances to breathe deeply, to contemplate, to be aware and grateful, and then the loud whine of a chainsaw will inevitably intrude, or those leaf blowers we hear these days. And here again, our commitment, our intention must be constant to stay present in the middle of commotion. Disruption in our lives is inevitable. Suffering is inevitable, says the Buddha. The question is, how do we respond? It's one thing to set out with intention, design a garden, plan a break from our work lives, to regularly or periodically step away from our human endeavors, but the design is only the beginning. The perfect placement of the stones so the water will make the right sounds, the positioning of the trees and shrubs and moss to play hide and seek with us. Or in my case, the planning of a carefully chosen reading list for time away, or the decision to reclaim a meaningful spiritual practice. But as in the Japanese garden, good intentions must be carried on through daily maintenance. Gardeners with clippers gently pruning small shrubs, weeding moss. And sometimes carrying out our intentions requires more drastic action, a bigger intervention, a chainsaw perhaps, or a silent meditation retreat. And so, my friends, my question for myself and all of us is, how do we maintain our sense of spaciousness once the daily realities come crowding back in with that loud whirring like the chainsaw? I've kept the images from the Japanese garden in my mind's eye and in my heart, and I know that the answer lies with the care with which we tend our spiritual environments. The answer is in commitment, in intention, and in practice. Spaciousness and the healing of stillness doesn't offer itself to us without our desire, our action, our commitment. Dear friends, as we encounter suffering of any kind in our lives, may we take time to close our eyes, to take a deep breath, and to let ourselves be healed in stillness. And may the peace and beauty of the natural world support us to have the spaciousness and rest we all so richly deserve. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen. Dear friends, these are the words of Antonio Machado. Traveler, your footprints are the only road, nothing else. Traveler, there is no road. You make your own path as you walk.
As you walk, you make your own road, and when you look back, you see the path you will never travel again. Traveler, there is no road, only a ship's wake on the sea. Beloved friends, as we journey together, making our own paths, may you find the rest you need and deeply deserve. May you find spaciousness in stillness. And now take all that we have shared out into the world, be a blessing to all those you meet, and may you yourselves be blessed. Amen.